Okay, you're all set.
Okay, so please stand next to your computer for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States
of
America and to the
and
republic
to the republic
for which it stands, one nation, under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with
with
liberty
liberty
and justice
and
for all.
justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Trustee Cheney,
Here.
trustee Lindberg,
Here.
Mayor Newhart,
Here.
trustee Bachman,
Here.
trustee McManus,
Here,
Mike Mosher,
Here.
Stephen Gaba,
Present.
Okay. Pursuant to Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, the Village of Warwick's meetings will be conducted virtually through Zoom video conferences until further notice. To view the meeting, you can go to YouTube Live. The public may view the meetings live by the public on the Village of Warwick, New York's YouTube channel. And that is also, you can go to the village's website. The public may view the meeting a day or so after its completion by going to the village's website, which is villageofwarwick.org. To comment during privilege of the floor only via email or mail, comments may be sent to the village board prior to the village board meeting via email to clerk@villageofwarwick.org or via mail, Village of Warwick, attention village clerk, Post Office Box 369, Warwick, New York 10990. Please indicate in your correspondence that you wish to have your comments read during privilege of the floor. So, and we do have a couple of, we have actually guests for privilege of the floor and a letter. I just want, before we get started, we have two public hearings. I just wanted to thank the Warwick Valley Gardeners, Warwick and Bloom, and the volunteers who planted hundreds of plants this past Sunday. And thank you to Sherman Farms, Corwin's Florist, Sugarloaf Mountain Herbs, who grew all these plants. Thank you to the Village DPW for their help getting the pots ready for planting. And thank you to Emmerich Greenhouses for preparing the hanging baskets, which are now out along the roadways, the main street and business. So many hands, many plants, and really wonderful work, and thank you. And thank you, Corey, Trustee Corey, for being there too. I appreciate it. So we have two public hearings. The first public hearing, if you could read the public notice, Raina.
Notice of public hearing. Please take notice that the Village Board of the Village of Warwick does hereby set a public hearing on the 17th day of May 2021 at 7:30 p.m. at Village Hall at 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, on proposed application for fiscal year 2012 Orange County Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program. The village invites public comments and suggestions regarding projects to be considered for funding under the Orange County Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program. Under this program, funding can be used for public infrastructure projects that demonstrate a clear, direct tie back to Hurricane Irene and/or Tropical Storm Lee. Applicants may request assistance with the local share of a FEMA public assistance project. However, CDBG-DR may not be used to pay for any part of the federal portion of the approved public assistance project. Funds may also be used to improve systems that did not function to serve the needs of the community prior to the disaster event, or to improve systems that failed during the disaster event. Applicants may also request funding for projects that do not have FEMA public assistance dollars in them, but that will improve the community's ability to respond to future disaster events. The village will be considering projects to be submitted to the Orange County Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery Program. The deadline for submittal is June 25th, 2021. Pursuant to Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, the public hearing will be conducted in the following manner. Members of the village board will attend the meeting via Zoom video conference. The public hearing may be viewed live on the Village of Warwick, New York YouTube channel. Interested parties may submit comments to be received by 4 p.m. on May 17th, 2021 via mail. Attention clerk, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, 10990, or via email clerk@villageofwarwick.org. Comments may also be made via YouTube during the public hearing by going to the Village of Warwick, New York YouTube channel.
Thank you, Raina. Barry, I just want you to maybe talk about your proposal and the county's response to that, if you don't mind.
Okay. Going back to Irene and Lee and then Superstorm Sandy, and subsequent work in terms of hazard mitigation plans that we had that were developed. The town did one first with the 3 villages, and then the county went ahead and did one. And one of the things that was highlighted in that in both those plans was the need to have emergency power generators for our facilities, predominantly the pump stations for water and sewer, and also Village Hall and the DPW complex. And so I went back and researched because we'd had Tectonic prepare an application. I believe it was either to FEMA or State Homeland Security, I don't recall which, and just use the information in that document to create a narrative for an application that would have addressed the remaining, I believe it's 7 locations where we still need to install emergency generators. That was submitted for a preliminary review to community development, and they came back today and basically said that it would not be eligible because we didn't have a direct, we didn't suffer direct damage from the storm, and we're only mitigating further damage. So it doesn't look like that particular project is worthy of being made an application for. But the good news is we also got an email from the county who said that New York State is opening an application period, and I haven't confirmed whether this project would be one that would qualify. I'll do that, and if we can pursue it, we'll go after that funding.
Thank you. So it's a very specific grant, a very specific pool of money that they had, which was, kind of an after effect. It wasn't used, and so they need to use it, but it has to be clearly for the repair of something that was damaged. And I had spoken to Dave Getz as well, in terms of Spring Street, but it was, again, hard to prove that that was the effect. And so, we've had that issue in the past. So if the board, you come up with, something you think would be a project that would fit into that criteria, please indicate that to myself or Barry, and we'll pursue it and we'll look at it to see if it fits the criteria. So could I have a motion to close this public hearing?
So moved.
And second, George, did you second that?
I did.
Yes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and Raina, you're getting a workout tonight.
Okay. All right, here's the second notice of public hearing. Please take notice that the Village Board of the Village of Warwick does hereby set a public hearing on the 17th day of May, 2021 at 7:30 p.m. at Village Hall at 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, on proposed application for fiscal year 2022 Orange County Development Block Grant Program. The village invites public comments and suggestions regarding projects to be considered for funding under the Orange County Community Development Block Grant Program. Under this program, a variety of physical improvements as listed below are eligible for funding: acquisition and disposition or real property, public works, public facilities or site improvements, code enforcement, housing and health codes, clearance, demolition, and rehabilitation for public use or economic development, housing rehabilitation loan and grants, special projects for elderly and handicapped, provision of public services, shelter, clinics, senior nutrition, etc., payment of non-federal shares of other grant programs, relocation payments and assistance, The village will be considering projects to be submitted to the Orange County Development Block Grant Program. The deadline for submittal is June 25th, 2021. Pursuant to Governor Cuomo's Executive Order 202.1, the public hearing will be conducted in the following manner. Members of the village board will attend the meeting via Zoom video conference. The public hearing may be viewed live on the Village of Warwick, New York YouTube channel. Interested parties may submit comments to be received by 4 p.m. on May 17th, 2021 via mail, attention clerk, 77 Main Street, Warwick, New York, 10990, or via email, clerk@villageofwarwick.org. Comments may also be made via YouTube during the public hearing by going to the Village of Warwick, New York YouTube channel.
So this is the community development grant that we apply for almost every year. Now we've lost some of our ability to fund projects because of the census figures. Yet we have been able to do some very successful projects in terms of handicap accessibility on some of our sidewalks. A good example is High Street, which is being finished as we speak. So so that's a great thing. And it floundered for some time because the community development could not make up their mind whether to fund it or not. And then finally, with the new administration on the county level, they understood it as a project that removed barriers for handicapped people. And so then it got the green light to move forward. So, so anyway, one of the projects that we are looking at is South Street between 2nd and 3rd, which has a very unique formation of sidewalk. It's actually up almost 2 levels, and it's very, as far as handicap accessibility, it really is not great at all. So that would be the criteria. And we would probably bring the sidewalk down so that it was just one level closer to the road, and of course ramps at each end. So so that's what we are looking at potentially as a proposal for this coming year. And that would finish actually the work on South Street from Railroad Avenue to 3rd Street.
I think that's a great idea to finally get that sidewalk fixed.
Yeah, it will take some doing, but you know what? The one thing that has been the greatest help with these projects is that we can do them in-house. Hopefully we can do most of this in-house. And kudos to you, Mike, for, having our men, ready and prepared, and they've learned great skills along the way, and they can do it. So saved us a lot of money in some past projects where we would have to go out to bid, and it was much more expensive than we could really even imagine. So any other comments? Could we have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Move.
All in favor?
Aye.
May I have a motion to accept the following reports: April 2021, the clerk's office, justice, building and March, and building, and March 2021, justice.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And a motion to accept the minutes of April 5th, 2021, April 19th, 2021, and May 3rd, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And motion for authorization to pay all approved and audited claims number 21001948 through 21002050 in the amount of $230,030.55.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So under correspondence, we have a number of letters. And I want to read the first one last because I think, and I also have an email, and I'd like the board to have a discussion, and it's about the outdoor dining as we're moving forward. So the one letter is from the Orange County Department of Health regarding sampling and reporting requirements. And we also have a letter of request from the children of South Street Extension to build a sidewalk on their street. And I think that's a great idea, and we've looked at it in the past. I think and as you know, we're looking at our sidewalk codes, and we're trying to come up with ways in which we can do projects like this in a easier fashion. The one thing when you build new sidewalks where there are no sidewalks is that you have to have everybody on board. Not only their children, but their parents. So, so that is one of the aspects of that as a project. I think it definitely has reason, considering there's no sidewalks there. It's heavily trafficked, but there's many families, young families that live along in that area, that entire area. And it would be great to have sidewalks that led from, the firehouse to Larry's or beyond. So I think it's something that we'll have to take into consideration, definitely, especially as we're moving forward with the new rules and regs for sidewalks. Bill, do you want to comment on that? Because you've been working on that.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's definitely a number of sections in the village that do need sidewalk repair, whether it's cement or the flagstone. And it was a wonderful petition from the young folks to remind us that they need sidewalks on their streets. And I know it's part of Barry's comprehensive plan too, talking about the sidewalks. So we'll get some good feedback from that committee.
Barry, just as a note on that, we have a meeting tomorrow, correct? Is it?
Yes, tomorrow morning we're doing a walk about the village with Peter Fairweather and the other consultants on the team.
Whose expertise is on pedestrian.
Pedestrian.
Right. So
pedestrian and bicycle.
Bicycle. So perfect timing. So we'll that petition has not fallen on deaf ears, that's for sure, and we'll keep it and look at that more closely and see, how maybe we can accommodate it. The one thing is necessary again is the homeowners buy-in, because once that sidewalk is built, it belongs to them as in terms of maintenance. So that's kind of sometimes the more difficult thing. But then we also have a letter from Caitlin Bennett. And I wanted to read that for the meeting. And give me a moment. There we go. Okay. To whom it may concern, my name is Caitlin Bennett. I'm a lifelong resident of Warwick and a homeowner on Wheeler Avenue. I am writing to address the many concerns that my neighbors and I have in regards to the detour that goes through our area when Main Street is closed for outdoor dining. Our neighborhood has been negatively impacted by outdoor dining in many ways, and we ask you to take our concerns into consideration. Outdoor dining on Main Street creates a detour onto Wheeler and its side streets, McEwen and Cottage. These streets are not designed for heavy traffic, and often due to street parking on both sides, Wheeler becomes a one-way street. Countless times people taking the detour miss one of the several stop signs or fail to follow the posted speed limits, causing further danger to our area. Cottage Street, McEwen Street, and Wheeler Avenue combined are homes to 40 children under the age of 12. The past year has been difficult for all of us, but especially for our children. The detour will limit access to outdoor spaces where our children can meet with friends and feel some sense of normalcy. When the detour is in effect, the families in this neighborhood cannot let their children play outside due to the tremendous risk that the extra traffic and careless driving causes. In addition, closing Main Street causes the people that live above the downtown businesses to lose their ability to park near their homes and to have access to the outdoors in a safe and reasonable manner. Many of these residents are elderly or handicapped and therefore are essentially trapped within their homes for the duration of outdoor dining. With the reduction of COVID-19 limitations on restaurants and with restaurant capacity being increased to 75%, it is our belief that consideration should be focused on the village residents. We propose a reasonable compromise that can address the concerns to our neighborhoods, rerouting the detour to a larger street with less residences, limiting outdoor seating to sidewalks, or reducing the number of days when Main Street is closed from 3 down to 1, would help our neighborhood safe. Please consider the residents of Warwick and the impact that closing Main Street will have on our community. And the other letter, which was requested for to be during privilege of the floor, but I think I should read it now, and then we can have some discussion, and then I'll invite Caitlin into the meeting. So good evening. This is from Helen Truitt. Good evening. I'm writing to voice my concern and frustration concerning the traffic and detours due to the closing of Main Street on the weekends. I live at 45 Wheeler Avenue in the village. We've all been affected in different ways by COVID. We have all had our normal living disrupted. Last year, when the detour started, I felt that we can all come together to help our restaurants. If that meant putting up with the traffic, it's a small price to pay. On Saturday, 5/15/2021, a driver was pulled over to the corner of McEwen and Wheeler Avenue. 2 police officers pulled their cars off to the side of the road. Now cars had to navigate their way around these 3 vehicles, which caused quite a traffic jam. Minutes later, 2 out-of-state ambulances, lights and sirens on, are trying to get past everyone. On the opposite side of New Jersey, transit buses coming around the corner on Wheeler. Then comes the motorcycle, the pickup trucks blasting music, and an 18-wheeler and the regularly newly congested traffic. If I didn't witness this insanity outside my front door, I would not have believed it. I'm not looking forward to putting up with this every weekend. My neighbors and I have to plan our days around the traffic. Just getting in and out of our driveways is a challenge. We have families with small children and now don't feel safe playing outside. We have joggers and walkers and people walking their dogs who are denied their normal routine. As COVID restrictions are lifted, I hope restaurants will resume 100% occupancy and return to normalcy so that they don't have to put up with this and we can get back to our normalcy. An afterthought, I would hate to have been in one of those ambulances having to be detoured to get to the hospital just so people can dine al fresco. So I just want to make a couple comments, and these letters are very important. These comments are incredibly important, and we knew going into this season that we had to watch how we're closing streets down and being very careful about it and the effects it would have on neighbors. The one thing I want to point out is that 75% capacity sounds like you can fill a restaurant to 75%. And that sounds wonderful. And it sounds like, okay, then that's really great. But it's 75% capacity and keeping the 6-foot distance between diners. So suddenly our small restaurants really don't, there are not that many people in those restaurants if that is the criteria. So that is part of the reason why we decided to continue this program. So we have had 3 days of the program. We've had Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we've gotten a lot of feedback from people such as the folks in Cottage Street and Wheeler, and we've gotten feedback from the restaurants. And I think it's important that we have a discussion about how we move forward. I think that there are maybe some possibilities that we can, things that we can change. I had a discussion with Boris, our building inspector, who was also brought in to start the program. He has all the criteria that's necessary for the state liquor authority and to make sure everybody's signed up or is putting their tables out correctly. And so I had a conversation with Boris and also with Melissa, who also was in that capacity on Saturday night and Sunday. So I have a number of concerns, and that is Sunday, it seems that the use of Main Street, Railroad Avenue, and Spring Street was sporadic, and that to close a street down for a single restaurant is a very difficult thing to do. And the other thing is Sunday, we have the farmer's market. So parking is at a premium, and that is an issue as well. And I have received some emails, which are not in this packet, but they're from stores on Main Street. And there was concerns about how the negative effect of closing the streets down, especially on Sunday, would have on their customer base. And so that is, I think, a real consideration to look at. And then the other thing is Main Street was very well used on Friday and Saturday evening. But again, there was not as great of use for the other streets. And so I believe that maybe we could alter the way we use or open our streets to allow the restaurants such as Fratello's and Halligan's to use their parking areas along Spring Street, which would fit into the state liquor authority guidelines because they can only go out. They have to keep in context to the edges of their building. So both of these restaurants have rather long facades on Spring Street. If they use the sidewalk for tables and then use the parking spots along the street for people to get by, I think they would have a very safe place to have outdoor dining, and we could keep Spring Street actually open. And I think that would be a very positive thing because obviously from the letters that we're receiving, it is having a negative effect. And the other thing is the same on Railroad Avenue. So I'm throwing this out there because I would like the board's thoughts and opinions, and of course we'll bring in Caitlin to hear more from their perspective. So.
Certainly, if the restaurants don't appear to be benefiting from certain times that we've made it available for them to be open, that should be revisited. Maybe not just based on this weekend, but a couple of others. And just my understanding is that we aren't directing any traffic to Wheeler Avenue. Is that correct, Mike?
No, there's no detour sending them down Wheeler. That's just your local taking our way
So,
through.
yeah, so it's the folks that want to get to West Street without having to go down south and loop all the way back around. At least it seems that way. I guess I'm certainly share the concern about, the ambulances. I think we need to work with the hospital and the EMS, even the out-of-state EMS, because we do have them come to St. Anthony's, to understand that, they basically need to go to South Street before they get to Railroad Avenue. Maybe 3rd Street, or maybe even Galloway to the light and then down South Street, so that they aren't stuck in the kind of traffic issue that was created. And, I guess I was somewhat pleased to hear that the police were there doing some patrolling. And I understand that we've used other measures in order to try and, reduce the speed and get drivers to pay more attention to what they're doing by the use of police cars, unmanned police cars that are stationed in important locations that would, establish that kind of a presence to slow things down.
One of the things that is different from last year is there is more traffic. There are more cars on the road going places. And so that is definitely a big change, I think. And it's obvious.
So I just want to say that after the board received Caitlin's letter, I reached out to her and I met up with her and stood on the corner Saturday from about 4:30 to 5:30, the corner of Cottage Street and Wheeler Avenue. And everything that was described in the letter, both her letter and Helen's letter, were accurate. I saw the police officers pull over a car, creating just a volume of traffic that was stopped. There was both sides of the street had parked cars on it. In fact, when I was leaving, going down Wheeler Avenue, somebody turned down, I think, Spring Street, and there was a barricade there. And because the barricade was there, maybe they didn't realize it, they were actually in the middle of the road, and it created like a four-way stop. Everybody just didn't know what they were doing. So it was concerning. Especially on Cottage Street, there was a lot of kids on that road and people were not paying attention. And I really felt like it would create unsafe conditions for these kids, people trying to do these cut through Wheeler, McEwen, Cherry. There could be a potential, unsafe conditions for kids playing in the street or on the sidewalk.
Last year, when we did this program, we started with Spring Street being closed, but then eventually, for different reasons, Halligan's had an outdoor venue in the back of their, in a parking lot in the back of their building, and Fratello's didn't really use the street as much, so we then reopened it, and that was, I think, helpful.
Yeah, it sounds like a good plan, at least for those two restaurants. Plus, I will tell you that both the fire department and the ambulance corps were both notified of the closures and the time. So if it's a local department, they know what to do. Probably would be a problem if an out-of-state ambulance came through. That could be a potential problem.
Yeah, well, there are a number of out-of-state ambulances that appear, and so we need to find who they are and get them that information.
Well, I can help get that word out to both those agencies.
Mike, if we just closed off the parking spots along Spring Street, you have the capability of doing that, correct? With the fencing, the orange fencing and the Jersey barriers that we have?
Yeah, we could construct something safe. It'd be easy down on the Halligan side. The side by Fratello's is going to be tricky. That road is a little narrow in that area, but they do have a healthy sidewalk that goes up the side of McEwen also, so they have plenty of room to work there. It would be tremendous help to keep Spring Street open. And if I may, it would also probably help you considerably not to do anything on Sunday, because the money that you're putting out for me to get guys in and out to close that street and the number of hours and the participants that we saw this weekend, I don't see that being a good choice anymore.
Right.
Just my 2 cents. Work side.
That's what we have to look at. I mean, these are all the pieces of the puzzle.
To follow up with Mike's, a few months ago, when we were talking about fees for people who are using the pavilion, we talked about some type of fees because we are laying out DPW overtime to close streets and open streets and move barricades all evening. So where have we done it? We need to do something with that, and that might change the whole face of outdoor dining in Warwick.
What about Railroad Avenue? How many restaurants are participating on Railroad Avenue?
So there are 3 restaurants that have signed up for the program. Conscious Fork, but they only use Sunday. And 14 Railroad Avenue, and which is a new restaurant. And then Blarney Station only uses the parking spaces in front of his restaurant.
Would it be possible to move them to Railroad Green and to open up Railroad Avenue, or no?
Which restaurant?
Ones that are ones on Railroad Avenue using Railroad Avenue.
I
They
guess,
can't because of the liquor authority.
yeah, the state liquor authority and also the regulations of the park. I
They
think
can
it
use
might,
those parking spots. They have plenty of parking spots in front of each one of those storefronts.
yeah, that's what my thought was, again, to do the same thing that we're doing on Spring Street so that they can expand. It won't be as enormous, but from the amount of tables that they put out, at least for Conscious Fork and Blarney Station, it's not an overwhelming large layout. I think they could get the same numbers if they just use the parking spots in front of their restaurants. Now 14 is a different ball of wax because he really is new to the block and he wants to put out as much as he can.
Well, so the traffic that goes on Wheeler and or Spring, how does that traffic affect what's going on Railroad Avenue?
Well, it just makes it easier. It's people are just more likely to take if they're trying to get around Main Street, to take that right if they're coming in from the south, to come in and take a right onto Railroad Avenue. The other thing, of course, is that we have New Jersey Transit and we have Cucan trucks. I mean, we have it's a well-traveled road, and it's used, just as a way to either bypass or to get through. So. I did ask Boris to reach out to the restaurants about, Plan B, about, just using the parking spots. And I was hoping he would have gotten back to me, but he did not. So.
So can we at least reach out to Fratello's and Halligan's and suggest their use of the sidewalks and the parking lots for at least this weekend?
Mm-hmm. And Sundays, do you think we should continue with Sunday? It really was, in my mind, it also, people were not happy because they're trying to get to the farmer's market. Parking is not easily found. and they're lugging their fruits and vegetables, or mostly their vegetables at this time of year, a distance, you know. So I think if we have, you know, 2 really nice evenings a week, I think that's great.
Okay, so as you're saying, suspending all dining on the streets on Sunday.
Well, restaurants can use their parking spots.
Yeah.
So Conscious Fork could actually set up on their parking spot.
Is that going to require me closing things?
No.
Okay. Well, I just want to make sure that, I can leave those little orange barricades out and they can be slid out to the end of the parking spaces. I can speak with the individual restaurant owners, because from what the feedback I got from my guys who were there to set up and break down, there wasn't a large turnout, and some of these restaurants didn't put stuff out, and then they put stuff out later in the day, and it wasn't a coordinated effort as it was last year. I know it's the first week, I understand that, but there's a lot of effort going on the village's part for not there to be so much on the restaurant's part, and for them to be able to pick and choose what days they want to participate. And we still have to do everything in our power to make sure that it's safe for everybody, no matter who participates. But sorry, just a work side.
Okay. So do I have some consensus about the Sunday, whether to discontinue that?
I'm perfectly happy with closing Fratello's or opening Spring Street, Friday, Saturday, and certainly Sunday. I'd like to hear from Boris as far as what happens for Sunday on Railroad Avenue. My 2 cents.
The signage that sends people down First Street as opposed to Railroad Avenue, is that really clear? I mean, is that?
Coming in from the Dawson side, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what we had to do. That's a big problem with the bus company there. We have to block off those first 2 spots also going down First Street, because the bus can't make those turns. So they had I don't know if they submitted a letter. I know Kathy, when they gave us the detour plan, they were, concerned about how that bus had to get in and out and back and around. So a lot of moving pieces.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think that Spring Street is definitely, if we can bring traffic back down Spring Street and offer the safe parking spots along Spring Street to those 2 restaurants, to me, that seems like the right ingredient, and as far as Railroad Avenue, I would do the same. I mean, I think it's better to do it that way, especially when on a Friday night and a Saturday night, the only person that's fully using the street is 14 Railroad. It's only 1 restaurant. And I think that it's very difficult to make that kind of closure for just 1 restaurant. I mean, if Blarney Station and Conscious Fork had a complete setup, I would say, yeah, okay, that makes sense. But it's very limited, I think.
If we're going to open Spring Street, then I would suggest that we put signage up at the intersection of Spring Cherry and Wheeler on the far side of Wheeler, basically saying no through traffic during whatever hours it is, and direct the traffic to Spring Street to come out at West. And that'll should take a lot of the pressure off of Wheeler, Cottage, McHugh, that area.
Mike, what do you think of that?
Sure, we can do that.
Any other thoughts, my board, my friends? As far as a fee, that's a whole other ball of wax. But for now, I think if we can make it a little bit more streamlined, keep these cars and trucks and motorcycles out of our residential areas, I think it would be a much more effective balance. I mean, that's it. I mean, it's a balance. And I really think that Sundays should remain Main Street, and the two side streets should be open. I think that there's just too much going on with the farmers market. Parking's at a premium, and it just, you know, the other thing is I've received emails from retailers up on the street and how it does affect their business, especially Sunday. The Sunday was kind of like, wow, you know, that's a very important time. Saturday and Friday and Saturday, because the setup is really close to the time that many of these stores close, it's not as dramatic. But Sunday it showed to be rather dramatic in terms of sales or loss of sales.
Let's remember that we charge businesses who are more restrictive than restaurants the use of a park that didn't cause any extra work by the village and DPW. And we're spending a lot of money from DPW and time getting people moving barricades and opening streets and putting up signs and blocking things off for very few restaurants who are participating. That's fine. It's fine if we vote to do it, but we did treat other businesses. I still think we treated those businesses unfairly because they're still more restricted than restaurants are. And we were gonna look into that. Nothing's got looked into, but
Well,
just so you know where I'm at.
George, if you want to look into it, go for it.
I have no problem setting a fee for closing the streets off. I really don't.
Well,
We bring people in on overtime on Saturdays and Sundays to do it. We take away parking from everybody else who comes to the village. And now you just want to put people in parking spaces, which probably take more time to block off just the parking spaces than closing the street. And I wouldn't feel very safe sitting in a parking space with a truck coming down, making a turn on the Spring Street.
no, what I was
that's
suggesting,
okay.
what I was suggesting, George, is not that the tables be out in the parking spaces, but the tables be on the sidewalk, and that the parking space be actually the pedestrian area. And I think that would be similar to being on a sidewalk. So it's just widening that area. It's actually making it safer for the diner.
Okay. Just
Okay, so do we have a consensus on how we should move forward with the program?
I think we should ask our attorney if a consensus okay or a motion is better.
Right,
Well, you need to act by motion. Weren't you going to hear from Ms. Bennett?
we are, yes. So I'm just laying out the steps here.
Okay. Well, you know, it's easy enough to phrase one. If you want to eliminate Sundays, you can easily eliminate Sundays. The parking lot closures is going to be a little bit more difficult to phrase. You know, if you guys could come up with some wording for that, it's easy enough to do. You just say, you know, move that we do whatever it is that you plan on doing as far as the parking lot closures. I don't know, maybe Mike can help with the wording on that. I don't know.
I think we'd go with the parking meter numbers And I'd have to find a map for that, Steve, to be honest with you. I mean, every parking spot is numbered by the meter, so it wouldn't be hard to do, but I couldn't tell you numbers off the top of my head.
I don't know that we're gonna be able to adopt a resolution on that tonight, though. You might want to put that off to your next meeting, except maybe for the eliminating the Sundays.
Well, the parking spaces that would be eliminated have to be immediately in front of the premises of the restaurant, because the State Liquor Authority only allows the serving of alcohol immediately in front of the building. That's all their permit will allow. So it probably shouldn't be, probably would be something we could phrase if need be tonight.
Yeah, I think we can. I don't think we need the exact numbers. It's pretty clear that they can't go beyond the edges of their building. That's the State Liquor Authority's guidelines. So if we just say the parking spots that line their building parameter.
Immediately in front of and contiguous to.
Right. But let's bring Caitlin into the room and let's have further conversation about this.
So we have Caitlin and also Katie Silva. Would you like me to
Okay, great.
invite them?
Great. Hi, Caitlin. You're muted.
We have Caitlin and also Katie Silva. Would you like me to-
Okay.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. So I just want to,
Hi.
have you been watching?
Yes, I've been watching for about an hour.
Okay. So we read your letter, Caitlin, of course, and then also a letter from Helen Truitt, who lives on Wheeler on the next block, I believe. You're muted. And
We have Caitlin and also Katie Silva.
Okay. You know what? Maybe some of the board should mute.
So I just want to.
You know what it may be, if someone's still listening to YouTube.
Okay.
Turn mine off. I don't know.
Okay. Is that better?
Sorry about that. I had YouTube on the other side.
Okay, no problem. So obviously your concern is our concern too. You know, we recognize it changes the whole, neighborhood quality that you are used to and that you love, and that's why you're living there. And so at the same time, we're trying to help our restaurants and our local businesses. They're important to us. And as I pointed out earlier on, 75% does not really mean 75% capacity in a restaurant. It's 75%, but socially distanced. So in a small restaurant like Eddie's Roadhouse or Fetch, it really doesn't amount to many people within the restaurant itself. So those are some of the issues that we're contending with. But we're trying to figure out what is, how can we do it and not direct traffic to your neighborhood. And one of the things that we were talking about, if you overheard, was reopening Spring Street.
Yep, we heard it.
Okay, and allowing the parking spots along, which you mentioned in your.
Yeah, I don't find that, I don't think that's appropriate because, then you're pushing the pedestrians into the parking spaces that are basically, they're walking in the road with trucks walking by. Like I can just imagine myself walking down Railroad Avenue with my stroller and my 5-year-old and having a huge truck right next to me. Like that's not the same as a sidewalk, and that's not an appropriate solution for pedestrians in any way.
Well,
and if it's time for me to speak, I would love to speak because I mean, I've been watching and I've been seeing all of this concern about the businesses and the liquor licenses and all of this. And what I really am not seeing is the concern for the children in my neighborhood. And I have 2 children. I have a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old. And my sister lives across the street. She has 3 children under the ages of 8. Our neighborhood has about 50 children. 40 was a low estimate. And really, like, one of these kids is going to get hit by a car. And you guys are talking about, finances and that type of stuff. I am not even exaggerating that this situation it's some kind of miracle that nothing has happened yet, because it is the most dangerous situation. And the reason that the police were there was because the people in the neighborhood are calling them. This is not a proactive thing that's happening. This is the result of people blowing through stop signs, cursing at the children, throwing garbage in our neighborhood, going in our street, turning around, going all different directions, yelling things at us, and just driving so fast that it's just so unsafe. And so the reason the police are there is because it's a dangerous situation. Okay, so it's not like it was a proactive situation where the police were like, let me consider the neighborhood and come and make sure everything's safe. No, this shit is very unsafe, and it's not okay. It's not acceptable that you get to sit in your houses and talk about restaurant viability while I'm out here worried that one of my children or one of my neighbors is going to get hit by a car. That is not okay. Like, wake up. Wake up. And I'm speaking.
Yes.
I invite you
obviously, yeah,
to come to my yard and witness this, because I understand that you're going to say, oh, this woman is out of control. Okay. Come to my yard, sit on my yard, bring your own chair. You're all welcome to come Friday afternoon, 4:30. And I want you to watch what happens. And I want you to see the terror that we are seeing every single time this happens. And it's far worse this year than last year. Last year, there weren't as many people driving around. This year, it's nonstop. I took some data. I got some time sampling data in the other day. In 10 minutes, I counted 71 cars going down Wheeler Avenue. And on an average day, there's about 10 cars in 10 minutes going down Wheeler Avenue. There's Jones Chemicals, there's buses, there's cement trucks going down Wheeler Avenue at fast speeds, and it's just not okay. So I invite every board member, Corey came out last week, but I invite every one of you to come and sit on our block and see what it is actually like to be experiencing this, okay? Because for us, it's not a far out notion like what's happening with the restaurants. It's like our neighborhood is being destroyed, literally. And so you need to come out and see what's happening with your own eyes. You can talk now.
okay, thank you. Sorry, and I didn't mean to interrupt at all. And I believe that we do understand, and that is why we're having this discussion, and that's why we don't want to send cars down Wheeler, and why we're talking about other options.
Well, I just want you to know that I don't know if you know the different people that live in the neighborhood. If you actually walked around the neighborhoods, you would know that Spring Street is home to many families with small children. And while that would solve our problem, maybe it would actually just be pushing our problem to somewhere else, because that's also a family street. There's kids that play in that street. There's small children all up and down that street. And that's just not an acceptable compromise. There has to be something else. Like, I'm not willing to, I would be happy if it was alleviated, but I wouldn't be happy knowing that we push it onto another family. And the people that are living on that street are living in apartments. They might have lower income. Those people are not going to speak out like I'm going to speak out. And I don't want to push it onto them. It's not, and I also want to say that 50% of the cars coming down this road are from New Jersey. Right? So they don't know the streets. They don't know which way to go. They're not everybody's following each other. They're stopping. They're asking us for directions. Okay. So like, we don't want that in our lives. These people they need signage, and they need to be going down a road that is made for those types of cars and that type of volume, not our street and not Spring Street. And I have to ask you, isn't it opening to 100% tomorrow? Is that, when will dining be at 100%?
maybe the 19th, but again.
So
it's-
Wednesday.
Right.
So
But
we need
again,
to consider the residents over just the businesses, because the residents, our children, are more important than the businesses. And I know that's not popular when you're on the board, but like the safety of our neighborhood is in your hands, and you need to really consider that, because this is really serious. Like, I skipped bedtime to be at this meeting, so this is.
Kate, do you have anything that you want to say and add?
Kate does, yes.
I think
Sorry, Kate.
you're good. Well, thanks everyone to at least bringing this up for discussion and being willing to open the door for a conversation about what the solution could be. I definitely think that there could be a compromise. You know, obviously I feel like Caitlin, and I'm sure you all have heard maybe a message or two that I may have left. Just it's been awful over here. You know, we've had trash thrown in our lawn, cigarettes thrown out the window at us. It's just not the quality of life that we want. And yeah, there's kids everywhere. Someone will get hurt. It's just it's unfortunate right now. But you know, last year I definitely understand the need, and I'm not here to talk about, you know, the restaurant solution and whatnot for everybody else. It's just expressing the concern of what's going on in our neighborhood. The amount of traffic that we've seen, the influx has been insane. People just blowing through stop signs. So what we've requested, you know, it's my husband, John. What we've requested is just to have like a police presence on the corner, if anything, at least, you know, someone designated to stay there, just because, you know, people flying through that, because there's parking on both sides, you don't see the stop signs. People then just go right through the stop signs, and there's little kids everywhere. So if there could be a stronger police presence or just somebody stationed there just to help guide traffic while we figure this out, that would be great, at least to start. Yeah. So
I'd like to add as well, folks, that we've spoken with several of the police officers in town, and I just hope that you all know that they're doing a great job as far as we're concerned, because as soon as we call, they come out and they say every single time, listen, we'd love to stay here. We'd love to sit here and write tickets and get folks to slow down, but we just don't have the amount of staff that we need to do this. So they put a decoy car that you folks brought up earlier. We all know that a decoy car really, if people see it, it may work. But it's the folks that are blowing right through the stop signs that it doesn't make a difference to them, because they see it and they say, oh, shoot. And then no car chases them and they're fine. And they go on their way back to New Jersey, or from New Jersey back to their homes here. And the decoy cars do nothing. So the officers that have sat here on several different corners of Wheeler and McEwen, they can't keep up with writing tickets. They're here for half an hour and they're constantly, by the time they circle back and park, they immediately turn their lights on and pull another vehicle over. And then after 4 or 5 tickets, hey guys, sorry, they all know us by name. They know our kids, our dogs. They stop and hang out with us when they have a downtime, but they have to go and pursue other calls as well, of course, you know, to maintain safety for the entire community. But if that would be an excellent solution, I think, at least to start, is to get permanent police officer presence throughout those hours. If we're not able to get the hours, you know, really, I think we'd like to do Main Street at this point, because that's what that street is designed for, is for that heavy traffic. Like Kate said earlier, our street is not designed for that. And without signage or without you folks helping us, and I think it's an excellent opportunity, as Kate mentioned. I think all of you folks outside of Corey who saw the damage that's being done, I think you should all come out and think, would you like this to happen in front of your home with your kids and your grandchildren? Would you like to live that life? And I'm pretty sure within a matter of 15 minutes, you'd be horrified with what you saw.
Man. Also, I wanted to jump on that too and mention that I started a petition, and we have 120 signatures from the members of our neighborhood and our community. And if that's something that you would like me to share with you, I can definitely do that. But It started slow and now it's got a ton of signatures because people are really realizing how dangerous the situation is. I also was wondering too, I don't know about the 4:30 start time. I'm not sure how many people eat dinner at that time, but I know like that's prime play time for us. And I'm not sure if a compromise could be to push that time back as well.
Okay.
Mayor, I'd like to ask you personally a question. If you lived here on the corner at our house on Wheeler and McEwen, 52 Wheeler, what would you like for to happen? How would you see this situation being remedied to suit your personal benefits?
Well, I think some of the compromises that we talk about, I think we all wish that we weren't even doing this. I think we all wish that everything was back to normal. But I absolutely understand, the change that happens and the amount of traffic. I think the increase in traffic this year is really kind of shocking, and I think that makes it a whole different. I mean, it was difficult last year, but you weathered the storm. But this year it's very different.
Yes, sir.
So are you coming to coming to check it out? My address is 4 Cottage Street, and I suggest you bring your own chair.
Right. Okay. I'm not so sure if maybe by the end of the meeting, we'll have made other decisions.
Okay.
And we'll not be sending traffic there. Yes, you know what, I can say, Caitlin, every street has kids. Every street has, Main Street has many apartments. So if Main Street's open, then that's as dangerous as Spring Street. So
those kids, if it's open, they're not playing in the street, right?
It's a designated highway, sir.
Yeah.
Right.
I think you're minimizing it, and I really think you need to come out and see it. Like I don't feel it's genuine for me until you're actually standing next to us and seeing it, because it just sounds like lip service right now.
Well, I think we're trying to find a solution, and trying to mitigate it sooner than later.
So Friday, 4:30.
I'm hoping that.
You could amend it, but if you're still closing Main Street, you need to come and watch what's happening. So.
I'll bring my chair.
Right. Yep. Sounds good.
Okay.
All of you, everybody. We'll even mow the lawn.
I have a question, Caitlin, if I might.
Sure.
The traffic flow is what you're experiencing on Wheeler Avenue. Am I correct?
Yes, I'm on the corner. So I'm on the corner.
I realize where you are. So,
okay.
But are you getting traffic on Cottage Street as well?
Yes, we are. So we're getting a lot of people that are cutting down there, mostly lost people. But I think people are like, oh, they're coming down, they're turning right off the West Street, and then they're seeing that there's a long line of cars and there's a lot of blockages. So they're like, oh, I'll go left here. Or same thing at McEwen, I'll go left here. We all know that's not faster, but they don't know that. So they peel around that way. So we're getting a really big increase. And then, the people that are going down there, they're not familiar with our neighborhood, obviously. So they're like the kids are basically jumping out of the street because we don't really have big yards over here.
Right.
So a lot of the times there's like 20 kids in the street. It's like an old-fashioned neighborhood. And same thing with McEwen.
So would it help to a degree to close McEwen and Cottage to only local traffic?
I think you can do that. I do think that, there's a ton of kids on Wheeler. Like I said, I would solve a little bit of our problem, but it would just push the pressure, the people on Wheeler, and so many of them have signed the petition. Pretty much everybody on Wheeler has signed the petition. It would just push the pressure on them. Like it wouldn't solve Kate's problem. It would probably maybe even make it worse. But there's also that turn when you go past the cross section of McEwen. There's a turn there that is extremely dangerous, and there's huge kind of like shrubs, and there's no visibility. Corey got to see that himself. So that, I think that would still be in play. So I think, you know, if you come and look, you can see the different complexities, and I don't want to say like no to all of your ideas, but like you'll see why like seeing it for yourself would really help you formulate some other solutions maybe.
Thank you.
Trustees, any other questions for Caitlin or Kate? Well, thank you, Caitlin. Thank you very much. I understand your concern. We do have that concern. We're trying to look at the picture of everything, but understand that safety is a priority. And that's why I would like it to be mitigated as soon as possible, instead of waiting 2 weeks or a week, you know, and seeing something terrible happen. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank
All
you
right.
for coming.
Do something.
Okay.
Thank you, folks.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye. So board, do you want to continue this conversation, or what's on your mind?
I mean, I live on Colonial Avenue, which is, you know, goes to Kings Highway. So, you know, outdoor dining doesn't really affect me, or if it does, I don't really see it in terms of the traffic. So I think just being in sections of the village that we don't live in and actually seeing it, I mean, it was crazy, to be honest. It was madness. And especially with all those kids racing down the streets, I mean, even their parents in the front yard saying, you have to stay this far back. There are people, you know, that don't live here maybe, that think that that's an easier way to get out to West Street. It's going to be a problem, and it looked like it was going to be a problem.
So if we started the program later, that makes sense to me. Created local traffic streets such as Cottage Street and McEwen Street. And I still think that Spring Street, by it's not the best, but it does create an easier through thoroughfare for traffic to detour.
Michael, if I might, the problem with trying to make what's presently a through traffic public roadway into a local traffic only roadway is that to do it, you either need to adopt a local law amending the code, or you could do it by emergency declaration, having declared a state of emergency in the village. That would only last 5 days. You would have to adopt another emergency order after that, saying that it would stay in effect, renewing continually for as long as the state of emergency lasts. But you're not going to be able to have the village board adopt a resolution making it local traffic only. You have, you know, you have to make traffic regulations by local law or by emergency order.
So we couldn't instruct the supervisor of public works to put up a barricade that would prevent traffic from going on to Cottage and Spring, or not Spring, Cottage and McEwen?
Barricade's a separate matter. That's like a DPW action on a temporary basis. What you can't do though is write tickets for violating your traffic laws because somebody went the wrong way. If there's a barrier there, obviously they crash into the barrier. That's a whole different kettle of fish. But you could, yes, by resolution, temporarily put up barricades and things like that.
Right, yeah, just like
So we wouldn't even need a resolution to do that, would we? Could the mayor direct the DPW to put up the barricade?
You would not. The mayor could direct it. I would suggest that in a situation like this where you're dealing with a bigger picture, it'd probably be better to act by resolution or motion at least. But yeah, legally, the mayor could do that. DPW could do that.
Can I ask something? If you guys are gonna block off Cottage Street and Spring Street and parts of Wheeler, where's anybody gonna go? I know I have signs up now, and we've had them up for a year, that push people as they come down into Main Street to send them down South Street. And there's a truck alternate route to go down Forester, but people don't listen to the signs, and that people go where they want. And when I put barricades out, even when I have 6 men standing in the middle of the road, people think that it's okay to drive towards us, around us. And even with hot asphalt in the ground, it's okay to drive through it. So I don't see how putting a barricade on the end of, believe me, I agree with these ladies, and I understand about traffic. But I just don't see how putting another hazard or traffic hazard or vehicular nuisance for the residents here, how it's going to help anybody. They're just going to go around it. They're going to go up on the curb. They're going to go through the sidewalk. They're going to do whatever they want to get wherever they want. Sorry, my 2 cents.
Well, I'm going to let everybody chew on all this throughout the rest of the meeting. We'll move on to motions. And at the end of the meeting, we'll bring this back up for discussion. And maybe we can make, I would really like to make a determination so that the traffic is not going down Wheeler or that traffic is being maximized because of the street detours. So again, we'll talk about this towards the end. Trustee Cheney.
Motion to return the planning board escrow. I am unmuted, sorry. Motion to return the planning board escrow balance of $3,155 to Convergent Energy and Power for site plan approval at 28 Church Street. All invoices have been paid as per the email from village engineer Dave Getz and planning board attorney Robert Dickover.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to authorize the mayor to notify Orange and Rockland Utilities, Inc. of the village's intent to purchase the street lighting system located in the village of Warwick and request Orange and Rockland to prepare a formal written sales agreement for the village's consideration.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to rescind the motion made on May 3rd, 2021 to hire Kaylee Zatko to the position of Village of Warwick engineer intern at a pay rate of $15 per hour at 32.5 hours per week for 12 weeks with a start date to be determined by DPW supervisor Mike Moser.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion to hire Wakely Banker to the position of Village of Warwick engineer intern at a pay rate of $15 per hour at 32.5 hours per week for 12 weeks with a start date to be determined by DPW supervisor Mike Moser.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to appoint Drake Loeb LLC as counsel for Article 78 petition in the proceeding of Patrick Gallagher versus Zoning Board of Appeals of the Village of Warwick.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Take a motion to authorize Code Enforcement Officer Boris Radinsky to issue orders to remedy and to commence enforcement proceedings to Village Justice Court as may be necessary in regard to certain identified properties on which unregistered vehicles are being stored in violation of the village code.
Second.
Discussion. Question, what authority does the code enforcement officer have under the law and the village code regarding this type of an enforcement of unregistered vehicles?
Start, issue orders to remedy, excuse me?
So he can do that without board direction.
Yes.
As
and
we're giving tonight.
Commence justice court proceedings, that's right.
So does it require then board approval to go to, what is this, county court, Supreme Court?
Supreme Court, absolutely.
Okay.
So
So,
you don't want to do that. Boris asked whether the board wanted to act civilly, or if the board wanted to. I'm sorry, I'm getting feedback. I can't understand. All right, that's better. He wanted feedback as to whether, because there's a number of these, the board wanted him to act in civil action in Supreme Court or proceed with justice court actions. And the determination was that justice court actions would be the way for him to go. So this is just a resolution instructing him to proceed with the justice court actions as opposed to going to civil actions.
but he doesn't need this to do what he's empowered to do already.
This does not legally have any legal effect. All this does is give him advice as to what the board's will is, what the board prefers.
Yeah, I think we're also just making the village board informed that there might be need for enforcement procedures in the near future.
Well, the idea is that he's going to issue orders to remedy, and hopefully most of the people will remedy them and take care of the problem with the unregistered vehicles. The feeling is that some people will not, and that further legal action will be required to obtain compliance with the code. And the thought was that justice court proceedings would be sufficient to achieve that. They may not be at the end of the day. We'll have to see. All justice court proceedings do is get somebody fined. There's no equitable relief, no injunction, no ability to tow the cars away or anything. You go to court and you get somebody fined for having unregistered vehicles on their property. And some people will, shrug that off and either not pay the fine or pay the fine and just continue what they're doing. But we're going to try it this way. It's the least expensive way. It's the quickest way. And this is, as I said, this doesn't confer upon Boris on the building inspector, any legal power that he doesn't have already. All it does is to provide him with direction as to how the board wishes to tackle this problem.
So he could have done this 2 weeks ago without coming to us.
He could have, but it's kind of a policy decision as to there's quite a few of these vehicles, and how do you want to go about it is the question.
I guess absent seeing, I guess if I'm making a decision tonight to say go ahead and do this, otherwise I've put my trust in the actions of the building inspector to follow whatever laws there are that empower him to do this, and just let him go ahead and do that. If he's laying this out, supposedly laying this out for us tonight, then maybe we should see what evidence he has and where these problems are. I guess I'm not comfortable with the resolution because in my mind, it's not necessary.
And
he should be expressing this, to the mayor, and the mayor should, be aware of it, and he should be able to proceed on that basis, not coming to the board. I'd hate to think that every time he had an opportunity for an enforcement action that he'd be coming to the board to get direction.
No, I understand where you're coming from, Barry. That's not what's happening, though. If it was just one car or two or whatever, I think he'd go and do what he thought was best. What happened here is Bill had, I don't know how many we have, 12, Bill?
Yeah, yep.
We had photos, and we sat down with the mayor and we went over this kind of prevalent problem in the village. And with all these different people, the question was, how do you want to handle it? Do you want to go to justice court for all of them? Do you want to commit civil actions? Do you want to have a mix of civil actions, justice court proceedings? Which way do you want to go? So we talked it over, and the thought was that just issuing notice of violations and hailing the people who need to be hailed into justice court will fix the problem. We don't need to go the civil route and commence Supreme Court actions. And so my thought was, let's have the village board express that to Boris. This is the route in this particular situation. We have this prevalent problem. We prefer to see you go, because he was looking for direction. But if your point is he could have
we don't need to authorize him to do this.
I
And the motion
agree.
says we're authorizing him.
He has direction because it's in the law, and we want him to follow the law.
Right. Well, that's your board's prerogative. If you don't wish to adopt the resolution, you certainly don't have to do that. And, I think Boris has his instructions one way or the other on this anyway, but that was the thought, that the board would say, go to justice court as opposed to pursue civil actions or something else.
But the resolution doesn't say that. It may infer it, but it doesn't say anything about civil actions, does it?
No.
No.
It does pursue enforcement proceedings. But there was this kind of backdrop to the motion so that Boris would know what the board's preference was. But again, legally, it doesn't matter. If you don't want to adopt the resolution, Boris, I think, has his marching orders, and he'll move forward.
I guess I would suggest that voting no might be the wrong message, and I'd prefer to see it withdrawn if others feel the same way as I do.
Well, yeah, I'm gonna vote yes for it. It's a problem, and I want to make sure everybody gets the clear message that we're going to follow up.
And I agree with Mr. Lindberg. I think that it is a clear message, and I think it's important. And I think I hear what you're saying, Barry, on a technical level and also administrative level. But so this is a clear message to him, a clear message to the public.
Well, my understanding is we've been not pursuing these for quite a while, and if it had just gotten done when he was advised, we probably wouldn't be here discussing this.
Okay.
Well, if it makes any difference to the board, I'm not sure it does, but I can assure you that Boris won't be coming asking for resolutions for every violation, or even on regular occasions in the village. Normally, he'll undertake, as he sees best. This is kind of a one-off where there was a prevalent problem and he wanted information from the board.
It's not that he hasn't been doing his work. I have a file here, a very large file on just one of the issues that he's dealing with. So any other comments? Does the board want to withdraw this, or shall we finish the motion?
Let's finish the motion.
Okay. So we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
I'm sorry, George, I didn't. Nay. Okay.
Nay. He should do his job and follow the laws that are on the books without coming to the board. That's why they're on the books.
Well, George, he didn't come to the board. We've had several meetings with the mayor, myself, and Boris, and Mike, and Mr. Gaba came the last time. So he didn't come to the board for permission to do this. We had a meeting and decided that the motion would be helpful, particularly if we have to go to enforcement proceedings, which by code we need to inform the village board and the village attorney and the village clerk of those enforcement procedures. So it's not that he came to us for permission to do this.
Why are we giving him permission to do it?
You know, in layman's terms, you know, we're putting this on the front burner. It's an issue in the village. We're trying to fix it, and we are informing the board.
There's lots of issues in the village that
We
the
can
code
only
enforcement
do one
officer,
at a time, you know?
that the code enforcement officer is empowered to correct. And if he has to come run it by somebody every time he wants to do it, then there's no reason for those laws really to be on the books, because it just comes up and somebody tells him, okay. If he's really the code enforcement officer and he's really willing to go out and enforce the codes as they're written, he would go and issue to the homeowner or the property owner, whoever it may be, a notice to remedy the situation that your abandoned vehicle is in violation of village code A, B, and C. And if that doesn't work the first time, you go back a second time. And if that doesn't work, then you come say, okay, now we need to take him into village court. But to go initially to tell people you're in violation, I don't think he's doing his job the way it should be done. So the motion passed, so there's really not much more to go on it. But if you wanted to tell me how I should feel, I guess you did that. So maybe we should move on to the next one.
That would be good. Make a motion to grant permission to Warwick Valley Quilt Guild to use Memorial Park Pavilion to hold meetings on Tuesday, May 18th, 2021, Tuesday, June 1st, 2021, and Tuesday, 29th, 2021, from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. All activities must be in accordance with Governor Cuomo's executive orders, New York State Regional Phase Reopening Plan, and the Orange County and New York State Departments of Health. Completed park permit, proof of proper insurance, and security deposit have been received.
You have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to grant permission to the Warwick Art League to use Memorial Park Pavilion on Wednesdays from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. from May 19th, 2021 to October 27th, 2021 for the weekly painting and drawing sessions, including use of existing picnic tables. All activities must be in accordance with Governor Cuomo's executive orders, New York State Regional Phase Reopening Plan, and Orange County and New York State Departments of Health. Completed park permit, proof of proper insurance, and security deposit have been received.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to grant permission to Girl Scout Troop 43 to use Memorial Park Pavilion to hold a meeting on Tuesday, June 8, 2021 from 5:15 to 7:30 p.m., including use of the existing picnic tables. All activities must be in accordance with Governor Cuomo's executive orders, New York State Regional Phase Reopening Plan, and Orange County and New York State Departments of Health. Completed park permit, proof of proper insurance, and security deposit have been received.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Make a motion to approve the budget modification and transfer request as per the village treasurer's letter dated May 13th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve 2021 summer recreation staff and salaries as per the enclosed list per the recommendation of the Village of Warwick Recreation Director, Ron Enterini.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Trustee Blackman.
I make a motion to grant permission to the Warwick Merchants Guild to hold their annual sidewalk sale on Main Street and Railroad Avenue on Saturday, July 10th, 2021 from 10 a.m. to was set up to begin at 8 a.m. and breakdown complete by 6 p.m. And on Sunday, July 11, 2021 from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. was set up to begin at 8 a.m. and breakdown to be complete by 4 p.m. Proof of proper insurance has been received.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to grant permission to the Warwick Merchants Guild parking spaces on Oakland Avenue in front of Railroad Green on Saturday, July 10th, 2021, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 2:30 p.m., and to close the parking spaces on Main Street from Warwick Resource Group to Eddie's Roadhouse and WBT to Fizzy Lifting Candy Shop on Saturday, July 10th, 2021, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., and Sunday, July 11th, 2021, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 4 p.m., and for the benefit of the annual sidewalk sale, pickup and return of no parking meter bags to be coordinated with the Village of Warwick DPW clerk.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to close Railroad Avenue and place no parking meter bags on the meters on Saturday, July 10th, 2021, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., and Sunday, July 11th, 2021, between the hours of 6 a.m. and 4 p.m., and for the benefit of the Warwick Merchants Guild annual sidewalk sale, pickup and return of no parking meter bags to be coordinated with the Village of Warwick DPW clerk.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Make a motion to approve the opening concert of the 2021 Village of Warwick Summer Concert Series featuring Stoneflower on Saturday, May 29th, 2021 at 7 p.m. at Stanley Deming Park.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Make a motion to grant permission to village clerk Raina Abramson to carry over 4.67 vacation days.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion to grant permission to the Warwick Valley Central School District to hold a car parade for the Warwick Valley High School class of 2021 on Saturday, June 5th, 2021. Procession will begin at the Warwick Valley High School at 10 a.m. and end at Park Avenue Elementary School with the complete route detailed in their letter dated May 11th, 2021. The Warwick Police Department has been notified and approved the route. All activities must be in accordance with Governor Cuomo's executive order, New York State Regional Phase Reopening Plan, New York State and Orange County Department of Health. Proof of proper insurance have been received.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I make a motion to approve and accept DASNY SAM grant number 12753 for $50,000 for construction of a parking lot in the village's Veteran Memorial Park, and to authorize the mayor to sign the grant disbursement agreement and all documents necessary to carry out the terms thereof.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And before we return back to detours and outdoor dining and safety in our neighborhoods, I just wanted to say, make one announcement, and that is a letter we received on Dear Mayor Newhart, on behalf of Governor Cuomo, the Environmental Facilities Corporation, the EFC, and Department of Environmental Conservation, the DEC, are pleased to inform that that the above referenced project has been selected to receive up to $30,000 from the Wastewater Infrastructure Engineering Planning Grant, the EPG. And that is a grant, an engineering planning grant that is focusing on infiltration into our system. And Barry, did you want to make any comments about that?
No, you covered it pretty well. We're just still trying to chase down where the water's coming from, or that's entering the system. That's not just, sewage that belongs in the system. So we need to get that out as much as we can to not have it create a burden on the treatment plant.
Mm-hmm. Great. So I'd like to return to the topic of the hour, and that is street closures and outdoor dining, and trying to come up with some form of resolution to make it more streamlined or safe, definitely safer. if we have a street closed, then there is a detour. And so I think it's up to us to find the detour that will have the least impact. As Caitlin said, every street has, families and kids. I think that her thought of pushing it out to a little bit later does makes absolute sense. I believe that we could make safe environments in the parking spots along Spring Street and reopen Spring Street for through traffic. And I believe the same thing for Railroad Avenue. By opening both of those up, I feel that we relieve some of the pressure for some of the cars that are going every which way. And so that is just my thought, but after listening to Caitlin, I'd like to hear your thoughts as well. And I'd like to make some form of decision tonight, because I think that I really believe that considering the amount of traffic and considering what we heard, what Corey saw, as Caitlin and Kate described, it's not a good scene. So we have to, I think, come up with another determination.
What time were you considering pushing the opening to?
Well, right now we close at 4:30, so I would push it another hour.
We did change after a week or two last year. We closed them earlier. It was obvious, probably a request from the restaurants or maybe Mr. Mosier, but we did close them earlier after a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I thought that was because school was out and the buses were done and everything. I thought we went to even though there wasn't much busing anyway, I thought that was the reason last year. There was a
Okay. It wasn't,
timing thing.
okay, it wasn't the restaurants needed more time to set up?
I don't believe so.
I think the restaurants have it down to, science. They can set up pretty quickly at this point.
So one of the discussion would be to keep Spring Street open
Right,
Thursday, Friday, Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday,
right.
and open Main Street and Railroad Avenue at least on Sunday?
Definitely on Sunday, yes.
Well, I would certainly agree to that.
And I also thought opening up Railroad Avenue on Saturday and Sunday, Friday and Saturday evenings as well.
I like that idea.
And allowing those restaurants to use the 2 or 3 parking spots in front of their restaurant. I know, George, you mentioned that it's still taking up parking, but it's not that much in the bigger picture, because there's parking on the entire other side of the street. More importantly, the cars can, there's multiple ways that a car can now get from Oakland Avenue over to 94 into Main Street and beyond.
I guess I have a concern about, and George mentioned it earlier, having seating in the parking spaces and not having adequate protection for those seated there. And if we allow tables to be in the parking space, where do the pedestrians go? Do they have to weave through the tables? I would almost like to see it, and I would suggest that the way it's handled would be to just allow pedestrians to walk and have it blockaded off, maybe not with Jersey barriers, but with the other type of fencing or barricades that we use, and allow that to be for the pedestrians and keep all the tables on the sidewalk.
I mean, I would like to make these changes and then, watch it very carefully. Again, reevaluate it. And as the ground is shifting, as these changes that are coming down from the governor's office, look at each one of those and see, how that affects our restaurants and our businesses. And
I don't think orange snow fence is going to protect pedestrians.
we don't use
Yeah.
orange snow fence. We have, Mike, could you describe it? It's like
We're using these metal concert like gates. They all hook together. They're interlocking. They are a whole lot more safe than even the old horse and barricades that we were using to close roads. I have enough. I'm sure that I could block off the parking spaces so that pedestrians could walk pretty safely. I'm not saying that they would all be interlocked so that it would be a tight thing. I'd have to measure it all out. I have a bunch of them, but I didn't do the math for that. I had them for closing the entire roads. But I'm sure we could figure something out so that it'd be safe for the people to walk down the edge of the road in the parking spots and keep the people on the sidewalk for the eating.
So I think we've come up at least with a plan, and we'll revisit it at our next meeting and see if this really has done the trick, or is working, or is not not allowing traffic to go into these residential areas, or more dense residential areas. So could we make a motion?
I'll take a shot at it. Motion to amend the outdoor dining to leave Spring Street and Railroad Avenue open and not open for Sunday dining, and amend the start time from 4:30 to 5:30 on Friday and Saturday.
And to allow the restaurants to use their parking spots?
No, we allow the restaurants to use the sidewalk in
Yes,
front
exactly.
of their
Yeah.
premises and direct pedestrians to the cordoned off parking spots.
Steve, did we cover our bases? Everything, you think?
Yeah, I thought Barry did a great job. That was not an easy one.
I'll second that.
Any other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any comments from the board? Final comments?
Yeah, I'd like to just bring the board up to date. The work at the wastewater treatment plant, ultraviolet treatment component is now in operation as of last Tuesday. The training by the equipment manufacturer is going to occur this Wednesday for our contract operator, JCO. This was a New York State DEC requirement to protect the fish in the stream by replacing our previous practice of chlorination and dechlorination. The chlorine residual can be harmful to the fish. The UV will kill the bacteria in the effluent without harming the fish. So it's a step that we needed to take because DEC required it, and it's something that will live on in the new plant. It's an investment of a component that's going to be in the new plant that we're not going to lose anything on.
Thank you, Barry. Looks great, actually. And onward to the next step, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So we have no executive session tonight, so could I have a motion to adjourn?
Just have one comment, Mayor. Just a reminder of our Memorial Day parade on May 31st.
That's right, thank you. And George, you want to make a comment about the school district voting?
There's the election tomorrow, 7 people running for 3 seats, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. Please exercise your right to vote.
Thank you.
Sure.
Voting is at the middle school, the
Dorothy Wilson
Wilson
Center at the middle school, Pine Island, and King School.
right firehouse at Pine Island.
And going back to what Bill said, as we're getting ready for the parade, at last meeting, we had a letter from Mr. Garitano about a memorial garden. And I just want to say that Mike and his men have opened up the earth and put some nice blocks around it, and it's ready for planting. So thank you, Mike, for doing that so quickly. And it looks great.
Planning is planned for Saturday morning.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Right, Mike? He had to pick up the plant and get them to the village, that's all.
Okay. Very good. So with that, could I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good night.
Good
night.
night. Good night,
Night.
everyone.